over Zoom and YouTube? Okay, all right, okay. All right, can somebody tell me when the time is to start? Because I left my phone. Thank you. Don is excused until he gets here. He's running late. Open this now in case it blows up. We have a 7 o'clock meeting in here. We will be done. Yes, you will, actually. Yeah. I think tomorrow you're over here.
What's that 7? Oh, they got a board meeting. VZA? All right, it's 5.
So you go. Okay. This meeting is now in session at 5 o'clock for a special board meeting. There's no reading of, there's no Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Roll call. Clerk?
All right, Trustee Martin? Here. Trustee Boyne is excused. Trustee Frazier? Here. Oh, I almost said Trustee Miller, but Treasurer Bud? Here. Clerk Wright is present. Supervisor?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We are here for the new business, our only item today, which is an interview of 3 excellent candidates for our vacant trustee position. We sent out to the board of the trustees, and we took input on how they wanted to do this, and we came up with this system. We sent it out to them for comment, and most of the comments were positive that this would be the good way to do it. Instead of doing one at a time, we're going to do all 3 at the same time. We're going to give each of you a chance to do 3 minutes to make an opening statement and cover anything that pertinent on your resume that you want to cover. And then after that, we're going to each trustee, we'll start with Trustee Frazier. We'll work this way. We'll each ask 1 question. It'll start with the number 1, 2, 3. And then the next question will start with you as 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. At the end, you'll be allowed a 2-minute closing statement. We will then, we will not make a decision today. The board will think about it, mull on it till next week, Tuesday, and at that time, we will make a decision. That's all I've got.
Can I note something?
Yes, sir.
I meant to write it down. Just to note that we're following the state guidelines in regards to vacancy for Board of Trustees within 2 years of a regular elections. The current Board of Trustees are to elect, not elect, but appoint a position to hold the vacancy of the board until next election cycle. And that has to be done within 45 days of the resignation of the current board member. All right?
And although the resignation of the current board member, we were asking for January to be her resignation date, she filled it out for December 15th. So that is why this is going to be moved. This timeline had to be a little bit quicker than we anticipated, but we at least caught it January 1st or so. So we're going to move forward. Let's start with, you have 3 minutes to make an opening statement. Mr. Cat, you could start and speak into the microphone. We are being broadcast live on YouTube and Zoom.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Shukite. My family and I love this community, and that's why we have lived here for over a decade in various areas of the township. My career has been a blend of healthcare and public health, starting as a medical assistant at U of M, where I was heavily invested in patients and their social determinants of health to help them reduce emergency procedures and connect them to resources. This changed my career path from nursing to public health. During this time, there was a local outcry for community members dealing with many hardships that my mutual aid efforts could not handle alone. I drafted what would turn into the Tri-Community Resource Guide, in which the board was nice enough to assist me with the expanding accessibility to it in 2018. After I obtained my Master in Public Health and Health Promotion Education and Epidemiology, I managed a legacy harm reduction program, one in which I participated with during my youth. I hired, trained, supervised a team who provided health and behavioral services. While employed there, I developed, implemented a community led evaluation for overdose surveillance in Washtenaw County. I've provided capacity assistance to new programs throughout Michigan and changed local ordinances through advocacy to center health led efforts to reduce HIV, hepatitis C, and other bloodborne infections. I work as a consultant for U of M, SOAR, and RTI International, providing various levels of research, data analysis, program planning, implementation, and evaluation focused on prevention, harm reduction, and equity-driven engagement. In Washtenaw County, I am involved in the Health Equity Prevention Committee with the Vera Institute, WHI's Opioid Project, and the Care-Based Safety Design Team. Statewide, I am on the steering committee for the Michigan Overdose Prevention Coalition and a network of harm reduction providers. Every day, I work with community members that are in need of food, shelter, clothes, and other necessities, and I continue to advocate for those who are under-resourced and excluded from civic engagement, which is why I'm here today in hopes of being given the opportunity to become part of this board.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Kelly. I'm a resident of Van Buren Township, and with my family, we lived here since 2004. I've been married to my wife, Jennifer. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary this year. We have two amazing children, Grace and Luke, who are 11 and 8, who are in the Van Buren Township School District. They're both in the GT program and participate in robotics. They are in Cub Scouts and all sorts of other activities. I attended originally Eastern Michigan University on a wrestling scholarship. Started out going pretty well with wrestling. However, shortly after realized that I had some other interests. That took me to a 6-month study abroad program in Australia, where I studied comparative government, and I also studied public relations. Also, while I was at Eastern Michigan University, I was on the Student Senate, participated on the Eastern Echo, which was their newspaper, and then competed with the forensics team, which was like their public speaking team, and competed with their forensics team, which I qualified twice for national tournaments to go to competitions for public speaking. At Eastern Michigan, I obtained 2 different degrees. The first one was in public law and government. My second degree I got there was in communications. And after graduating Eastern Michigan University, I attended law school at Detroit College of Law on Michigan State's campus. It's since been renamed to Michigan State College of Law. And I graduated from there and was licensed by the state bar in 2002 to become an attorney. This last November, I celebrated my 20th year as a practicing attorney in the state of Michigan. I'm a small business owner. We have a local practice that we've been operating for almost 15 years in the area, and my law partner and I, John Vanchek, have been working in the community together, and I've known him since Eastern Michigan and actually attended law school with him as well. I was appointed on the Planning Commission about 8 years. I believe this is my 9th year on the Planning Commission. I've loved every year. I've had a great opportunity with expanding education on planning, and I've actually sat on different positions and have had some different board seats while I'm planning. Started off with BZA liaison, so I learned quite a bit between the different, the way the different boards interact, and had an opportunity to facilitate teamwork and bringing ideas back and forth between the different boards. I've also held the position of secretary, vice chair. I was acting chair for a little while, and then in 2021, I was voted to be chair of the Planning Commission, and then at the end of 2022, I was also voted to be chair of Planning Commission for 2023. My family and I are very active in the community. We love the area. We've been here coming up almost on 20 years in the area. Participate in events throughout the community, including lakeshore cleanup events, and anytime we get a chance to help out where we can, we are doing things in the community. and we'd just like to thank you for this opportunity tonight to come and speak to the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Before we move on, can I get, Larry, could you somebody turn that down? I'm having a hard time because of that the roaring noise and the speaker's not picking up. I can't hardly hear.
My turn.
Yes, speak clearly.
Good
loud.
evening.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you for the opportunity to sit here and have an interview for the appointment of the open seat for trustee. My past experiences and education makes me well qualified for the Board of Trustees. I have a degree in business management, having attended Schoolcraft College and Ohio State Universities. I'm retired after 35 loyal years of service to Ford Motor Company, where I did contracts, labor relations, human resources, fire safety and ergonomics. All those departments was overseen by me. And I was also responsible for the fire systems for several of the parts depots for Ford Motor Company across the country, from here to Atlanta to Virginia, et cetera, et cetera. And my past experiences for the public sector includes chair of the Planning Commission for many years, prior to be elected a board member for 10 years. I retired from Ford Motor Company, and then I retired shortly thereafter from the Board of Trustees. But I have plenty of free time now to be a member of the board. I'm a charter member of the Van Buren Public Safety. Originally, when we moved here 30-some years ago, we had a part-time police department, and that developed into the full-time department we have today. We also had part-time fire, on-call fire out of the station. That's all we had at one time. So we've come a long ways as a township. Also was the chair of CHIPS. I don't know if anybody remembers, but years ago, when we were involved in the public safety drive to become full-time officers, we developed what's called CHIPS, and that would be in case there was a fatal accident or to any of the public safety officers, the CHIPS members would donate $100 to the members. I don't think that's in effect today, but that was one of the things that I started earlier in my career. Today, I'm chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I have served for 3 years, including secretary for the past terms as the chair of the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals. I also served as past president of the Southwestern Wayne Democratic Club, having served as secretary, vice president, and as president for a long time. And I'm the one that negotiate the first contract to have their public meetings held at 4-H Fairgrounds. I signed the first contract, negotiated with them to have a permanent place for their meetings, and they're still meeting there today. I'm also married to my wife, Pat. We have 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren. One is finishing college at Central of Ohio, and the twins are seniors in high school, and they're looking at colleges to attend in the fall. I was previously being endorsed by Southwestern Wayne Democratic Club, as well as at that time the 15th Congressional District, and rated outstanding by the UAW. Thank you for your support and acknowledgement of this panel here. I have copies of my resume if I didn't know if it was appropriate time to come up and give them to you, but if and when, I'll have
We,
it.
we did supply those to all the trustees a week ago. So, yeah, they've already got them.
It's good to, you want them now or you want them later?
You handed yours in.
You want to do the same?
He said they've got them already.
You did not hand one in, and we asked for one.
They don't have this
Yeah,
one.
but yeah, go ahead, bring it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did it differently than others.
Yeah,
You-
that's right.
You filled it all out on here, and then you gave it the other sheet,
This is a
so.
recap of-
Okay, so this is a recap of what we already have, okay. Trustee Fraser. So we're gonna go into our question period now. We're gonna number two, actually.
Feel you're suited to be a trustee? Or
I believe I get to go.
No, actually, yeah, actually, that would be right, yes. Thank you, that would be actually better.
Okay, I
You
didn't,
start.
was sure with her starting with the introduction, I
Right.
figured I'd.
That's okay.
So I believe that my background as an attorney for 20 years makes me a very, very good candidate for a trustee position. My job completely revolves around rules, regulations, and procedures, and that's what governs the board. That's one of the things I really like about the Planning Commission is that you're using ordinances and taking a look at rules and procedures and bringing it all together to make the community better. I have 2 young children, as I mentioned a minute ago. We love the area. We are very active in quite a few different activities. And I have a small business in the area, so we're tied here and planning on being here for a while. I believe also my background on the Planning Commission for the last 8 years has taught me a lot of things such as teamwork, able to work through problems on a group basis, as well as the importance of being tied together as a community. And I believe for those reasons, I would be an excellent candidate for the trustee position. Thank you.
Mr. Herman,
I feel I'm well qualified, mainly because of my training and educational background. I graduated from the Michigan Township Association Academy during my tenure on the board. I also, in the last 3 or 4 years, have attended many of the seminars on zoning, planning, appeals process, the court cases that involve zoning and planning and appeals. So I feel I'm still well qualified and I'm able to help if I get the honor to do so. Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Shukat.
Thank you.
Yes.
I feel that I am qualified because I really wouldn't be here today if community members didn't push me to be here to center their voice. My kids are here. My husband and I finally bought a house. We're very centered and dedicated to this community. And with me being in public health and us usually working on a shoestring budget, I'm well qualified to look for grants and find funding opportunities to help support a healthier community for everyone.
All right, Treasurer Bud?
Give us sorry. Give us 3 skills you have that you think differentiate you from the other candidates.
Well, my past experience, for one. Number 2, I'm a problem solver. When I was on the Planning Commission prior to being a board rep, we had Ashley Capital come to the township for a warehouse that we did not have. The biggest store, the box store we had was Myers, and warehousing was not the warehousing that we know today. So with the staff and myself as planning rep and the developer, Ashley Capital, we were able to set up guidelines for distributing, for distribution centers, warehousing, and that's still in effect today, although it probably has been updated to fit the properties. So I'm a problem solver. I did the same at Ford Motor Company. Constantly, the issues come up that you need to solve the problems. I'm a listener. I work with the people. Each one is entitled to their opinion, and then the consensus will rule. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shukat, three skills that differentiate you.
She did.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, she did.
I always want to make sure I can talk loud enough. So one, I think my analytic skills, being able to obtain information and process that and analyze different outcomes. Another skill I have is very dedicated to making sure people are able to obtain their needs, being creative and following rules and requirements and looking to see how those can be modified and where they could be more equitable.
I believe three skills that I possess that would be extremely beneficial to the board would be my skill in negotiations. It's what I do on a daily basis. We are forced into adverse positions with people that usually don't like us, that are always arguing and trying to come up with a common goal for everybody to come out beneficial. It's something that I've been trained on, something that we do on a daily basis, and quite recently, as my children have started getting older, I've learned that my skills at work tend to come in handy at home in problem solving between the two kids when they start fighting. So another skill that I have is my drive for education. Um, whenever we're getting opportunities with planning or other things, really not a fan of not knowing something. So if I get an opportunity where I can learn more, become a little better, better educated, a better knowledge basis, I tend to try to push for it. One of the things that I was grateful for being able to do on the Planning Commission was to get certified for the Citizen Planner, and then pushed forward to finish up my Citizen Master Planner certification. And I believe there may still only be two of us that have accomplished that that feat. So I continually do that with my practice as well as through my positions here with the township. Another thing that I'm very well suited for is teamwork. Again, we are in a position on a daily basis where you're bringing together multiple individuals to try to work together on a common resolution. And it's not always something that everybody's 100% happy with, but the goal is to try to come to an understanding where people can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Just writing some of this stuff down. Okay. What do you feel is the most important issue facing Van Buren Township today? What is the most important issue facing Van Buren Township today? Who is it? John.
Well, they can start.
So back. Go back to Ashley.
I think sustainability. That is something that, we can immediately want grants for the township, immediately want projects to help benefit various areas. But looking at long-term sustainability, such as providing funding, for the firefighter, for the fire engines to be repaired when they need to be, and having that fiscal responsibility of saying, we know this is going to come up. How can we sustain our funding? How can we make sure that everything that we're doing is looking at our future for our children, for our community, is something that is critically needed in Van Buren Township.
I think overall our township has been on a very good path. I think the board and the committees that the board has appointed have been doing an amazing job. I think that we have some items that we could work on to help better us as we move forward. One of them, I think, would be helping with inter-community communications and relations. I think that would or help benefit everybody significantly. One of the projects we worked on recently with Mann's Lumber required the working together with Canton Township as well as our community to try to bring it together. That the idea that we are just one single small entity has not been around for a while, and I think continuing to expand and communicate with other communities and work together for common goals, I think would be very beneficial. Another thing that I think would I'd like to see kind of start working on is a little bit more transparency and some community outreach for issues regarding trust and things. For some reason, that comes up quite a bit at board meetings where, for some reason, people don't understand that we're not out to get them all the time, that we're trying to help them and trying to do things. So I think one of the ways that we could benefit our community is trying to be a little more open and bringing people into our meetings. And one of the trainings that we recently did included giving better access and talked about moving meeting times, moving placements of things. I think that would be extremely beneficial for the township moving forward. Thank you.
I believe the biggest concern facing the township is development. The rapid growth of builders and developers coming to the township for vacant land that is fast disappearing. We need to be controlled and make sense development that as needed, not per se as wanted, but understanding at the same time that each property owner has a right to develop their own property as long as it's within the scope of the zoning. And that's why I have been involved in the planning, educational training programs to stay on top of the latest tools that are available to us. And I'm also working on the master planning as well to make that all happen. Thank you.
Clerk?
So, if appointed, what would be your top 3 goals for the community over the next 2 years?
Goals for the community over the next 3 years would be
2 years.
2 years. Thank you. I apologize. So for the next 2 years would be community engagement, bringing out, trying to reach the residents of the community who have jobs that take them past times where they can attend board meetings, trying to make it more accessible. That's been quite noticeable with the remote shift and allowing people to call in on Zoom and attend meetings. It's kind of dwindled a little bit. I think some more community outreach, trying to be a little bit more transparent with the community on what's going on and getting things out to them with notices so they understand what's happening and having a chance to have a voice in it. And then I believe another one, trying to start with education and looking at some of the ordinances, revamping some of the places that were deficient, that with planning we started going through and identifying it. So starting to look at trying to make sure our committees are all on task for completing education, and then taking a look at our ordinances to make sure that we are in compliance with some of our neighboring communities that have been making some updates. Thank you.
I think during the next 2 years, or just about 2 years, it'd be quite really the development would be the issues, which would also include the roads, traffic lights, public safety, access to such sites, those kind of things that need to be in compliance with the needs of the township and the people that live here. And there's going to be some public safety issues coming up with the added construction and development for the extra spaces on the roads, like bypass lanes or left turn lanes or center lanes. those issues, would like to be discussed uh, and have it planned and ready to go along with the development. Not putting the horse behind the cart, but put the horse in front of the cart, so to say. So, yeah, there's a couple things that I have in mind for specifically for the county to do some traffic light studies. There's several areas in the township that are quite accident prone, more than the normal rate of accidents per capita. So that, those will be some of the goals that I would like to see happen in the next 2 years. Thank you.
Some of the goals that I think immediately could be addressed that would be feasible are seek more affordable housing into the township, um, provide ways and find partnerships for accessible transportation within the township. And then also addressing a racial and economic equity plan within the township and then community members for services.
I'm writing as quick as I can here. Okay. Um, uh, Trustee Martin, you're number 6.
What is your proudest professional achievement?
Well, I had a successful career at Ford Motor Company. Uh, the sad part of that is that after I retired from Ford Motor Company, they closed the building. What they did. Now, what happened is all the depots, the parts division, the depots were all built in the 50s, and buildings are falling apart, and therefore the choice was made to not rebuild or repair or refurbish, but instead to sell and lease new space like Ashley Capital. Ashley Capital has several Ford tenants in several of their buildings, especially in Brownstown. So that was one of the problems that I solved. I got called back to work to close the plants and make that transition. So those are some of the things that has happened that I resolved, and today that's continuing. Thank you.
My proudest moment, I guess, is combined of professional and personal, but providing thousands of naloxone kits and to the community and getting reports back, adding my own and other community members to equal 500 lives saved.
I think my proudest professional moment so far has been my 20th anniversary as an attorney that happened in November. Didn't really get a big award or anything. It was also kind of scary when I realized that I had been practicing for 20 years. But I think that was, reaching that achievement was a big mile mark for me.
Okay. Trustee Boynton?
Your leadership style. How would you describe your leadership style?
So my leadership style is really empowering employees and building upon their skills, listening to further feedback and giving them opportunities to have that independence and using that to be able to delegate what I need to have done to be more effective.
My leadership style is more a little free flowing. I really believe in teamwork, so having a person in charge, but I believe that everybody that's involved in the project that we're working on should be heard, should be having input in it. Uh, I believe that by you can take a lead, you can be in charge of the process, but more so trying to encourage people to come up with decisions, come up with plans instead of trying to force things on them. I think more of a nurturing and teamwork is probably the best way to describe it is how I've kind of worked forward. Fortunately, does it with my profession doesn't always work that way, but that's kind of the goal to go for is trying to uh, work more as a team as opposed to an adversarial process.
My approach is by consensus. We usually have team meetings, and then everybody has their input, and then we try and come to a consensus of what the majority and what's best for whatever is in question. So, but ultimately, I was in charge of making the final decision, but usually with a lot of input. Nothing was done just out of my own. Uh, and most of it was all in agreement. You know, you build your team around you, and you're only as good as the people that serve you. Leadership is such a thing that you have to have the backing of your people that are involved in whatever you're doing. Thank you.
All right, we're now going to go to a closing statement. Yeah, we'll go to a closing statement. Should we open up for questions before we go to the closing statement? Yeah. Let's open it up for questions before we go to the closing statement. This is where the trustees can ask any question they want of any one or all three. So does anybody have any questions for this group? None? I want to come up with some just to
Mr. Chair.
Yes, trustee Martin.
Ms. Shukai, you mentioned as part of your top 3 goals, you talked about community engagement. Can you go expand on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so when I mean community engagement, I mean looking at the township. From me living in various areas of the township, I've noticed there's a very big disconnect from, say, way on the side of Rossonville Road, that's right up adjacent to Washtenaw County, as opposed to I'm in the Haggerty sub now. Sometimes there's different needs, and so looking at each neighborhood or kind of these zones as hubs and being able to connect and center those voices, like, okay, I'm going to go to the Haggerty sub. What is your biggest connection? Like, what is your biggest needs? How can we get more involvement, more feedback? Okay, if I go to the other part of the township, the needs may look different there. And what is that? And being able to locate and being able to identify those issues within those smaller geospatial areas.
Thank you.
I guess I got to, so, Mr. Kelly, could you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by openness, more government openness?
So a lot of times we encounter, at least with planning, we encounter fast-moving issues that are difficult to spread out to the community and get a lot of involvement. People tend to view that as not being open. I believe one of the things that we can do, I know we have the ability for social media and expanding on some of those processes, but I think it's not necessarily openness that the board or township really struggling with. It's the perception of openness. And I think by making some accessibility changes, one of the things in training at one of the last conferences that we went to for planning, one of them, they were discussing the ability of changing your official public hearings to a time that is more fitting or something that is even different than normal. Instead of having your public hearing at the beginning of a meeting, if you have an event in the community, as long as you have a quorum at that event, you could hold your public hearing and do something that's a little less in the box and allow more people to come in and provide communications. So if you have a big project like the Sumter Road corridor, or if you're redoing the master plan, We've had the events where we're holding them at the fire department and allowing a longer time for people to come in. So I think it's more so of giving the community more ability and availability to the boards and what's going on.
The second piece you did, I agree up on the, well, I also agree on that. But I agree on the part you said regarding education. I discussed with my office and my deputy, I think that's gonna be the biggest piece that we're gonna be doing between now and 2024 regarding elections is education. And I think that goes overall. I think I believe the biggest detriment with the community and the township government is that the lack of communications based on what you're doing, what actually is happening based on what the perception of what's happening. So, yeah, I agree on that.
I guess I'll ask a question just to keep it even. John, Mr. Herman, you mentioned that development was the most important thing in the community to you. Can you elaborate on what you mean by development and
Well,
what's right, wrong? What is it? What's your vision?
well, my vision is that we have percentage-wise that includes commercial, warehousing, for instance, but also housing and affordable housing. We're finally getting some senior housing that we have not had to date, other than a little bit here and there, but we're finally getting some of affordable housing for seniors. That way you can keep your parents or somebody like me even later on to be able to stay in the township rather than move out. And then the roads and the traffic flows and the traffic lights, all those things have to be falling into sync so we have a livable community that is welcome to the people, but also welcome to the developers or whether they're big corporations or warehousing or homes. We need to have space for all of it, not just flood all the vacant properties from ag to warehousing, for instance. I don't see that as a proper way of our township developing. We need homes to go along for what people with upscale homes, people with affordable housing, and we have our share of trailer parks, so that I'm not addressing those at the moment. That's not an issue to me. But those are some of the things that need to be evaluated yearly, if not more often, and they need to be adhered to when we have a plan and stick to it. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah.
Trustee Boynton.
This is for all three. I'd like to have an answer from all three of you.
Put more into the microphone. I can barely hear you myself.
Is that better?
Yeah, a lot better.
As I said earlier, this is a question for all three of you. I'm going to form it a little bit, so really listen. The question is, what is it that you bring to this board? Now, in your answer, I'm going to pretty much tell you what I don't want to hear. I don't necessarily want to hear how dependable you are, how trustworthy you are. I don't want to hear about timeliness. I don't want to hear about your education. Don't want to hear about your background. Don't want to hear about developmental issues. Don't want to hear about any awards or certifications or achievements that you've won. Not looking to hear anything about community involvement, whether it be with children or adults or all of us in between or seniors. I want to know the answer to the question that I gave at first. You could take a moment or two
So
to
the question is,
think
what,
about
what
it.
do you bring to the board without bringing up pretty much what they were just talked about already? About,
No, it's
it's okay, I mean, we got something else.
yeah, it's a little deeper than that. I'm looking for something, and I'm going to cut you guys loose on it. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Where do we at in rotation? I don't know where we're at.
You can start.
Item Mike last.
I believe it would be up to me, but I have no problem pretending and pushing that. So, what do I bring to the board without stating what I essentially bring as a professional? The I think one of the biggest things I would bring is my heart in caring about the township. I love the community, and we've been here. I also think that another thing I would bring to the board would be sense of humor as well. So sometimes it gets me in a little bit of trouble, but I think those are some aspects that would bring to the board a little different than what I mentioned earlier.
You're saying we're not funny?
Did not say you were not funny, but I
can say it.
I think it's going John.
Yeah.
Mr. Herman.
Well, the thing I would bring to the board is oversight and the leadership that I've been talking about, I guess. But I make jokes sometimes at our meetings, and that kind of breaks up the monotony. And I agree with my co-chair here that sometimes a little light humor is in order just to relieve the tension of what's going on. We deal in serious business most of the time, so a little lightheartedness is not out of order. Thank you. And I don't think you're not funny.
Something that I bring is aligning our values. I think, we all have different positions in life and we all have different experiences and different, needs that have to be met. But at the end of the day, looking at what do we value in this community is something that I can bring. And the other thing is passion. I'm very passionate about a healthy community.
One more call. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, we're going to go now to the last, the closing, which will be the 2 minutes of closing out to basically finish off any way you guys want.
Before we
Trustee
go
Martin,
back,
yes, sir.
Do we have any, are we allowing anybody that's on Zoom or anything to say anything? No?
That was not the plan at
Okay,
all.
I just wanted to make sure.
And I guess since,
Okay.
yeah,
No,
we shouldn't diverge from the plan, I guess.
It's on the agenda. Yeah.
We have public comment on the agenda at the end,
Right.
I think we have.
but
we
they
have
can't
public
ask
comment,
questions.
but
of
it
the-
shouldn't be to the candidates. Correct, yeah, this is not an open question. Right.
Okay, any other questions since I'm new at this? Good? Okay, so we're going to start off with the closing statements now, and I believe is it back to you again? Or no, you actually started the last one, so it's John. Okay. John, closing statement, 2 minutes-ish.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to interview here, and whatever you do, you'll choose the right person, I'm sure. I'm offering to serve the township again. I've done it so in the past proudly. I was honored to be a board rep for 10 years, and I continue to serve my township, and I will continue to serve my township no matter what the outcome is today. So I really appreciate that we have qualified people to sit on that board. I'm not hesitant of anybody here that won't be able to serve this board properly and honorably. So I still have time to offer my services, and I've done so. And if the board would like to see me back there, they will do so, and I'll be proud to serve. But consensus will rule, as I stated before. Thank you very much.
I echo the sentiment of just really appreciate you all taking the time to listen to us, to formulate questions. I really, am community centered, and every time I come up here, it's with an issue, and I don't really get to connect with many of you to say, hey, let's build this partnership or let's do this. Oftentimes, I'm on my own watching the videos on YouTube of whatever planning meeting, whatever board meeting, because I truly care and I hope that's known. That I don't get the financial backing to sit on these meetings. It's because of the dedication. I want to bring that to community members, and I'm hoping if I'm on this board that I can bring that process here and engage with you all, but also with the community and bring it back to them.
Thank you as well, trustees, for having us this evening. I believe that I would be a very good candidate for the open seat. I've got a background as an attorney for 20 years. I've served on planning commission for over 8 years. And my family and I have been in the community now for almost 20 years. We love the community. We love where we're at. My entire career has been dedicated to rule of law, procedures, and work in problem solving. And that's one of the big things I believe I would be bringing to the board. We also have a small business in the area, and we do not plan on going anywhere soon. I have kind of been looking at a long-term plan, and my long-term plan has been to continue to give back to the community where I can. I love being on planning. I love serving Van Buren Township and being able to use my skills to help out the community. My family continues to invest in the community. The board has been doing an amazing job moving us forward, as well as all of the committees. And I would just like to continue to see our community grow and provide an amazing township for our youth to grow up in and for people to grow old and retire in. So thank you so much.
Okay. Well, I think that the people of Van Buren Township are extremely lucky that we have 3 spectacular candidates like you guys. I'm pretty sure everybody would agree on that. So, I mean, Ashley, your passion and Brian, your long-term commitment and your history of 20 years, 30 years with Van Buren is just amazing. You're all incredibly smart, and we're very lucky to have you guys here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on down the list, right? Okay, all right. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I would just say kudos to what the supervisor just said. I think all 3 of you all are would be very capable of fulfilling the seat that Reggie Miller has vacated. I wouldn't have issue with either one. I think what you portrayed here today is basically what we all are seeking for as a candidate and someone to fill the position. We just want to reiterate, we are tasked to make this appointment. We're not hiring. It's kind of different. Never did it before, but I just want to let each and every one of you know that, and you feel the qualifications that I see. I know it's going to be.
Anybody else want to make a closing statement?
I guess I would make that same station. It's been my pleasure to work with Brian Kelly, of course, on the Planning Commission. Of course, I knew John from before when he was here. I've been introduced to Ashley. I haven't actually worked with her, but I would say the same thing as the other gentleman. We've had 3 good candidates. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I work with a relentless motor. The Tri-Community Resource Guide has saved so many people. Thank you. And all the other communities are using it now, too. So, anybody else? Okay.
I'd like to say that it's just wonderful that we have such quality candidates that are interested in our township and moving it forward. I'm very pleased with everyone up there. It's going to be tough.
Okay. Trustee Merton?
Excuse me, I would like to thank the candidates for coming here today and kind of pouring out your soul a little bit to how you feel about the township and what you think you can offer to us. We as a board, we have a very important duty to the township, and it's not just about development and everything else. You know, we are the fiduciaries of the township, so we have a lot of financial things that we have to deal with. We have other issues like housing, roads. All of those are important to us, and they're on our radar. So we appreciate you recognizing that these are things that we need in the township. And I thank you for your time.
Go ahead. Trustee Boynton, you're it.
There's not a whole lot left to say, being the last one that always speaks. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the residents of Van Buren Township for your interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can stay right there because this meeting is probably going to be very short-lived for a minute. We now go on to public comment. Is anybody from the public that wishes to speak?
We have a couple participants, but if there's any in-person public comment, I would turn it over to them first.
Okay. Oh, sir. Yeah. State your name for the record, makes the stenographer's work a lot easier.
My name's the same, same as it was. I appreciate this forum here. John's been here before. John, you had to resign last time you were on the board, right? That's right. He had to resign. He brought us Vistion. So, I mean, it's nice that he's interested, but thanks, but no thanks. I don't really know Ashley. I know she does a lot of nice things in the community for needy people. I think you know who the best person is. I'm not going to say their name. I don't want to give them the thorn. But thanks, and it's kind of a thankless job. I know. Unfortunately, some people get the wrong idea about trustees. They really don't do much. On the contrary. I've been around long enough. I know that they really don't do much. I mean, I would love for any of you to brag about all your accomplishments you've done since you've been here, Mr. Boynton. But anyways, the beat goes on. So, and you got to replace her. So, thank you.
Anybody else seeking public comment?
So for our virtual participants, please raise your virtual hand if you had a comment to speak. I did have a comment left in chat. It was a supportive comment towards Mr. Kelly. I can read into the record. I think Mr. Brian Kelly is an excellent candidate for VBT trustee. He is loyal, professional, and well-rounded individual. Not only has he proven his abilities on the planning commission, but he also comes with plenty of legal knowledge. VBT would be lucky to have him as a trustee. And if from any of my...
From his wife? No.
It is not. It's for Mr. Stephen Dark.
Okay.
Okay, from the public. And if there's a last chance for any public comment, please raise a virtual hand or leave a chat now, or else they will close that portion of the meeting. And I don't see any virtual hands raised, Supervisor.
Okay. We're moving on then to adjournment. May I get a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Treasurer Bud, supported by Clerk Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. McLaughlin? Yeah, come on by.